What is up, everyone? I just got back from the North American International Championships, and we're going to be looking at the deck that I chose to play and got top 128 with in this 3,000 man ordeal. Not the best record, but not the worst either. Let's talk about it. I chose to play Gardevoir. I thought going into the event, Gardevoir was one of the best decks in the format. I felt like it had a good matchup into pretty much everything besides Lost Box. I think you were slightly unfavored, but every game you got to set up, Gardevoir got to pretty much beat everything. It is one of the best cards in the format at being able to abuse Unfair Stamp, and I think that was something that people were not taking lightly. I think Unfair Stamp was just such a broken card that if you had access to it, a lot of games were just kind of won on the merit of your opponent not being able to play the game after an Unfair Stamp, either mid or late game or even early game. Like if your opponent takes the first prize at 6-5, you have your refinements, you have a first Gardevoir, you have an attacker, you Unfair Stamp your opponent. They're now in a position where they're not moving through their deck nearly as fast, and you can just stunt their growth with late game Ionos. The idea behind this list in particular is that we had all the attackers that every other kit plays: Fluttermane, Screamtail, Cresselia, Drifloon, and the Monkey Dory tech as well. But we chose to play a copy of Luminion and Collapse Stadium because Luminion increases the consistency that allows you to play the games a lot more often by getting Luminion for Evo and Vessel or Evo and Puffin, and go ahead and set up a little bit more often with that combination. And then Collapse would allow you to bump things like Luminion off your board and add some percentage points to the Lugia matchup because sometimes they just can't find their stadiums or have to overbench cards and use Luminion. That being said, this also led to a natural inclusion of something like Research over the 4th Iono because it let us set up more in the early game, deviating a little bit more from the normal lists and adding something like Palpad because we are researching away resources. We need to put back things like our 1-of Boss or our 1-of Turo in the late game. Enhanced Hammer was there for a tech to deal with the Lugia matchup. Enhanced Hammer was obviously countered by Roseanne's backup in a couple lists. But I think the craziest thing we did that I think a couple other groups also came to was 2 Vessel and cutting a Dark. We figured that 1 Dark is enough to make Monkey Dory worth it in the matchups that it was supposed to be in. Sure, it's very impactful where we need it, but otherwise everything else felt fine. 3 Ultra Ball, 3 Puff, and 1 Nest Ball felt perfectly fine throughout the day. I didn't have a ton of consistency issues, and the last list felt pretty amazing. Isaiah Bradner was 1 game off of his win win to top 8 basically with this list, and my losses felt out of my control, and we'll go into that in a second. So let's jump into my tournament run. The first round I go up against Cole Cameron. Cole was playing Lugia, and both games were pretty much identical to how I kind of drew it up, where I would go snipe the chops as soon as the board got set up, and then I would have the attackers at my slew however I wanted to. I remember game 2, I collapsed pretty early, and Cole was only able to get 1 Arc Gaps out. Like I went collapsed 190 the active with Gardevoir because he was still reading the win at this point, and he like read the win one more time, and then I went ahead and bossed the other Lugia and hit it for 190, and Monkey Dory 30 onto like a Chinchino maybe or something, and then the next turn I planned on knocking out both Lugias. In the same turn, taking out both open spots on the board and losing the game, and that's when he conceded the game and we continued onwards. Or he got 1 Lugia out, or 1 Arc Gaps out at that point, and I went to go ahead and I Palpadded. My deck was already like super thin at this point because you draw a million cards, and I was able to win the game that way. Round 2 I went against Rohit, who was playing Dragapult Zatu. Both games Rohit chose to go second, and it was kind of a back and forth where his setup was really good, but by the end of game 2, I pretty much had figured out that he wasn't playing Radiant Alakazam, but Radiant Charizard instead. And so I was able to make a play where I had to bench a Ralts that eventually would become a Curly into a Gardevoir to set up my end game play. And it actually paid off exactly how I wanted it to. And I was able to abuse the fact that there was no Radiant Alakazam, but instead of Radiant Charizard to make the play I wanted to and win the game by 10 damage, basically. By virtue of 10 damage, I was able to win the game. Cresselia and Monkey Dory both came in clutch both games. I think game 2, I did prize the 1 Dark, so the game got a little bit closer than I wanted it to be, and both games, he drew out of my Unfair Stamp, so it was a little bit unfortunate as well because Dragapult is one of the few decks that doesn't have a great draw engine out of Unfair Stamps. Sure, you have Recon Directive, which is better than most decks, but a lot of decks have like Comfies and stuff like that to get out of it also. But Recon Directive into like a supporter, I think he was able to stamp me back, was pretty unfortunate. Round 3, I go up against Holden. I believe Holden was... I don't actually remember what Holden played, actually. We'll come back to Holden, I guess. While I pull up I wrote some notes down, too, as well. But in between that, we had... I went up against Corey Wiedner the next round, and Corey messaged me. Let's pull this here with my notes. Holden was okay. Cool. I didn't write down notes. That's awesome. Um, I think this. I don't actually remember a ton about this game, but I think at this point I hit maybe my first Gardevoir mirror or something of that nature, or maybe Lost Box. I don't know. It was whatever. Round four was Corey. Corey was playing Gardevoir mirror. I remember this pretty vividly. Corey sat down and said, "Do you remember we played once before in the past?" And I said, "Yep, 2014 U.S. Nationals. That was the season that I didn't play for anything. I just came to hang out with friends." Um, and I dropped. We played a 4-2, and I lost to Corey, and that killed my day two run. So I conceded, or like I lost, and then I dipped um, from the tournament. Game one, Corey basically we go back and forth, but I basically get the early lead in the mirror where I get the first snipe with Cresselia, and I'm able to kind of keep tempo. And if you play both of them play one Monkey Dory, then it kind of comes down to Monkey Dory and the damage off. But if you play two Monkey Dory, you can go double Monkey Dory, Flutter Man, take two prizes, which acts as like a pretty good buffer in some situations. But I was basically able to get ahead and stay ahead the whole game. And then game two, Corey had like probably one of the worst starts I've ever seen, and the game was over in like 2 minutes. Like I think Corey was able to get like one Ralts, one Curlia down, and I basically got like 4 Curlia into play on my turn. Into Gardevoir's the following turn, like boss the Curlia, kill the Curlia. Like he was able to stamp me, but it didn't matter because my deck was already thin, and the game was pretty much over. So I got pretty lucky to win that one, and Corey definitely bricked, and I'm now 4-0, one of the best starts I've ever had at a U.S. Nationals, or I guess NAIC specifically. And I'll go up against John Amostowi, who's an amazing human being. He's playing Lost Box Turbo. The first game, it is a little bit swingy, but comes down and lands in my favor. At the very end of the game, he does end up like lost owning a lot of resources, so it kind of just like made it easier for me to take a couple prizes early, and I like count all of John's resources, and he basically doesn't have enough, so he just picks it up and goes to game two. Game two, I'm down 4-1, so I make or 4-2, so I make a gut read and go into Fluttermane and start just like smacking with Fluttermane. But if I go into Fluttermane, I open up the door to. If I don't go Fluttermane, I open up the door for him to just dig through his deck and eventually just win the game with Moon, Prime Catcher, or like Moon. I think Prime Catcher was gone. It had to be Boss. Like Moon Boss wins him the game basically on my Gardevoir. But I basically was like opening up the road to that being the only route to win the game because his deck was still pretty big. But he had one Rod, one Gate left, and like Sableye was in deck. I know that, and I pretty much surmised that he only played one Psychic Energy at this point. Like I had to guess, and I think I was pretty spot on about that. And on the very final turn where I was attacking with the Fluttermane, John in his 3-card hand was able to garner boss up my Greninja, which I had an energy to retreat for in hand. Of course, I prepared for this. Which then he did the first selecting. I think he hit the Rod, gets rid of something. Then he goes Rod back to Psychic, which I think was incorrect from John. And I think he immediately called out that he made a micro misplay because he had Nest Ball in hand, I think was the last card. So in this situation, you want to wait. Oh no, he had Gate in hand, sorry. He had Gate in hand. He was looking for a way to get to Sableye. So it didn't matter at what point you go Rod Gate. You just need to find another ball card. So then he goes Retreat the Pokemon. Go again, Flower Selecting. And then he switch cards. So his 3-card hand was like Switch Card, Gate, Rod, whatever. Then he goes Switch Card into the other Comfy, which had a board on it. Oh, no board, just nothing. And then he hits Nest Ball, and then he goes Nest Ball, which I think was his last Nest Ball also. Nest Ball, Sableye, Gate, Energy, Retreat, knockout game. And then game 3, I'll look through my deck, and Manaphy, Heavy Ball are prized. So I basically get turn 2 Greninja into turn 3 Greninja, and the game is over. Like, I can't really play the game from there. Like, prizing Manaphy Heavy Ball is a pretty low percentage chance. And John, Lost Box set up the way it's supposed to. So he didn't even have to go into hands. It just kind of ended up being a one-sided slaughter. So down 4-1. Not too beat up about it because I don't think I played bad at all. I think it just kind of the cards fell the way they did, which happens, right? It's a game of chance at the end of the day, too, a little bit. Round 6 up against Tony, who is playing Raging Bolt. The first game, I kind of just blow Tony out of the water. He has like a super slow start, and I'm basically just like turn 3 Drifloon KO his active into like turn 4 Screamtail KO his Squawk into turn 5 like win the game. And then the next game, he's also having a super slow start, and I think I've now taken 4 prize cards before he's taken 1 or 2 even. Like I think he had to Burst Roar, and then I think he took 1 prize with Burst Roar, and then I counter catched up Greninja, and then I Screamtailed his um, Ogre, not Ogre. I Scream Tailed his Raging Bolt that had 2 energies on it to knock it out, and then he basically just didn't do anything that turn. So I went ahead and Scream Tailed again, killed um, a Squawk, and then the game was just pretty much over. So both games kind of felt super in my favor, and I don't think I was ever at any risk of losing because like Raging Bolt has to really hope the Guardian misses a turn at the very least, and 1 or 2 turns to kind of like come back into the game. But I never missed a beat. Like I lost the flip, I was forced to go first, but I still never missed a beat on that matchup. Round 7, I go up against William Kiefer, who's playing Dragapult, comfy stuff, I believe. And both games I just like bricked. Like it was just really bad. I think I lost this set in like 10 minutes. Um, like I got a Poffin and I was able to start there, but like my hand was like energy, like counter catch a Rod, and then I would like counter catch try to stall, but like William basically got like turn 2 candy, Dragapult, blow me up, and the game just ended on the spot. And then the second game I went like Ralt's Pass, got donked. So I had a long 40 minutes to think about my life while I was going into my win and into day 2. And then I hit Ian the next round. We're playing God of War Mirror. The first game, Ian ends up getting ahead and he squeaks. And then there's a play where I reset stamped him to 2, and then he's playing his turn out. I'm like, you should not have that many cards in hand. And we were able to reverse the situation, luckily enough, so there's no penalties given. It's just a warning. And we just continue the game. Ian ends up taking that game because he squeaks it out at the end with attackers. Barely. I think if he doesn't win that turn, I get it the next turn. And then I win the next game. Basically just a long game, too, where like I was pretty much ahead the same way. Like I took 2 prizes before he took 1. And then I stayed ahead from that point. Like I never gave back the lead. And game 3, basically like time gets called as we're like in the setup phase. So we just like sign the slip and walk away because like Guardy is not going to donk each other in 2 turns. And I don't play Candy. He doesn't play. He played a Candy, so I guess he could have tried to go for it. But yeah, right now to go against Raymond Long. The first game Raymond like kind of doesn't turbo brick, but like makes like a weird play that results in him just like not finding the pieces to Evo up, and then he like is trading and can't find Guardy, and basically like I've taken out like 3 prizes before the game has even begun, and at this point like Raymond has no chance to win, so game 1 ends, and then game 2 comes down to the end of the game where I basically have set up a Flutterman on the bench. My God of War is about to go down. Raymond knows I have a 2-card hand. I get to draw for turn, and I knew my prize cards were exactly boss in Countercatcher, so I knew that no matter what happened here, I win the game on a Gust effect to win. And so Raymond takes the knockout, and I just reveal the Gust effect for game, which is pretty much exactly what I wanted to happen. And I got lucky. I definitely played better than Raymond in this one. I think I played well. But God of War Mirror is like a crapshoot where like if one person starts missing a beat, it's like basically that's what it is, and that's basically what it came down to. I think game 2 like Raymond got the setup, but he didn't have the energies in discard the way he needed to, and that's kind of like what doomed him in the early game and gave me a chance to come back into it. Round 10, I played against Tom, and Tom was playing Lugia. Game 1, I end up taking against Tom. Felt super easy, honestly. And then the game 2, I am getting absolutely blown out of the water. Like I am like down like 4 prize cards because I couldn't even answer the hands early. Like I couldn't find a Enhanced Hammer. I couldn't do anything. Like I was just struggling. And I probably should have conceded, but I played it out longer than I should have. And then game 3, we're in a position where the only attacker Tom has left is Blood Moon or Selena that can do anything. And so I'm able to hit Lugia, hit hands, and I'm able to like move 30 damage to hands. But the turn that I moved the damage to the hands, I was turn 1. Or no, that was my turn 3. So if I had one more turn, I'm able to go move 30 damage to hands, knock it out, knock out Lugia, take 4 prizes in 1 turn, and I win the set and win the game. But I basically, my indecision of not wanting to concede early in game 2, cost me 2 match points, and probably is where my tournament turns, right? Like now the rest of my matchups are different for the rest of the day. Everything's different for the rest of the day for me. Then I go up against JW, content creator, Flex Daddy Righteous. You guys know him. He's playing Goldengo. The first game, JW gets everything set up. I'm a little bit slower. I have a line to still win the game after JW's early start. And so I go for a crest play to go boss the next turn, 190 the Goldengo, take a knockout there. He can't knock out my Guardy, and then I can go to Drifloon, take a knockout there. And after like turning up my guy, and then basically I can win with 1 more Drifloon knockout. But that's the turn that JW also finds Turo, so it kind of shuts the rat out, and I just don't concede because I want to see what's in his deck still. I feel like it's a bad matchup anyway, so maybe I'm playing for a tie. The second game, I open Ralts, Greninja for 2, and my hand is like Vessel, 3 energy, E-Hammer, Countercatcher Rod or something, and I'm like, pass. And then Jade always shows me like the movement. And even if I had like the Mana Fiora set up, he would have had Prime Catcher, Cologne, Greninja on my board, and that already would have like lost me the game anyway. So I end up losing to JW pretty quickly. It happens, not the bad matchup anyway. I think Goldango's hard. Then round 12, we go against Kyle Sanchez, who's playing Lugia. The first game, I am really far behind, but I finally get the Enhanced Hammer kill and Archeops play. And as soon as I do that, he Ultra Balls for... I think there's like 1 or 2 Luminion already showing. And then he Ultra Balls for the third Luminion. And I was like, no way, man. And then he slams it off of, I think, an Iona to 2. And is able to go into Roseanne's backup, which gets him Legacy back. And then I lose on the back of hands being able to attack again. So Roseanne's backup was good in that deck. I didn't expect a ton of people to play it. So game 1 knowledge is now acquired. We're playing game 2. I'm pretty far ahead now. I think I've taken 2 prizes already before he's even gotten an Archeops out. And he's on his turn getting the Archeops out now. And I look at the discard and I'm like, hey, Kyle, your discard is not there anymore. And Kyle might have accidentally shuffled it back in at some point. But it was like bad for him to have the discard like gone too. Like I think his discard was like pretty perfect. That honestly was like double chops like before that turn, a couple of stuff. And he was like, I don't have any Archeops in the discard. I'm like, you don't have a discard. And so he just picked up his cards, went to game 3, no harm, no foul. And then game 3, he kind of just like turbo bricked, where he's just reading the wind like 4 or 5 turns in a row. But that's way more than enough for me to just go like knockout, and like kind of just I set up perfectly, and he didn't set up at all in that final game. The round 13, I go up against Ryan Harris, who is playing Lugia as well. The first game, the Jamming Tower, he was playing double Jamming Tower, I think, or maybe multiple Jamming Towers. And the first game, the Jamming Tower actually comes in handy because I don't get the Evo up. But even then, I'm able to like Enhanced Hammer the guy, or he doesn't set. I don't know. There's like a weird sequence of events where like I basically just like go around the attacker. So I think he went double Chinchino maybe, and I'm able to like E-Hammer energy off of a Lugia, which I think was probably his last double turbo, and I'm able to put myself in a position where I can just win the game because he runs out of resources and runs out of Archeops, which is exactly what happened. And then game 2 was kind of a similar story where I'm able to gust up like the Chinchino before it gets to be a problem, take that out before I take out the Archeops, just because I think that was a bigger problem and a threat to deal with. And then I go take out chops, E-Hammer energy off one of the attackers, take out the other attacker, and the game comes back to me. But the game was like super close, I think, in both games. And the Jamming Tower were actually super, super annoying to play around and deal with. Next, trying to go up against Andre Zarat. He's playing Dragapult Comfy. The first game, he like goes through pretty much his whole deck and doesn't find Dragapults. Like I'm just like sitting there waiting for him to go Candy Dragapult and blow up my board because I'm having a super slow start, and he just doesn't get there. And he has like now Lost Zone, like Boss, double Iono, double Countercatcher. Like his Lost Zone is like 15 cards or something ridiculous at this point. I'm just sitting there like, where are his Dragapults? Like he had to have prized the Pult or something and only plays 2 if he's playing like Tord's list. And I think the turn he got a Dragapult up and running to attack into me. He took a Cram Prize and then I like Crest or something, or maybe I just chilled. But the turn he took a knockout, the turn he made Dragapults, he was taking a prize to go to 4 prize cards. He had like 7 cards in hand and like 4 cards in deck. So I did not need to do anything for like the rest of the game. And both rods were already showing. So like I didn't have to do anything to win this game. And so I win game 1 and there's like 20 minutes left on the clock. Andrea looks at it and then he just concedes. We both start setting up and I go like, he makes me go first. I go double Poffin because I'm just an absolute sack. And I'm just like, I open Greninja, I draw 2, I think, and then I go like set up Poffin, and I go retreat into Fluttermane, and then I pass, and then he just concedes, and he's like, you got it. Good luck in your last one to try to get top 16. So now stakes are high. It's on me. I'm up against Brian De Vries, really good player from the Netherlands. Game 1 of Gardemir goes my way, where I get ahead, and he doesn't come back into it. Game 2 goes his way, where he gets double Monkey Dory, and I can't really answer it. And then game 3 is a pretty gut-wrenching series, where like I make a series of game 2 also had a very end game play where I could have gone Ultra Ball my hand away off of his Iona to 2 to get Luminion for boss's orders up the Gardevoir on the bench and try to flip through the Mind Bend Confusion flip to win the game on the spot, or I can go into a new Gardevoir retreat and make him have Countercatcher up my guy and Rod Fluttermane, way to get to Fluttermane, and then knock out 2 things in the same turn with the monkey. And I was like, maybe he doesn't have it. He has like an 8-9 card deck, and he has like a 3 card hand. And so I just went for the other Gardevoir retreat, knock out the monkey, and he had the exact cards to knock me out. and I lose. But I think I should have just gone for the confusion flip. That's kind of where I'm kicking myself a little bit. Like, I think go for the confusion flip, try to play to win is the correct strategy there for sure. And then the third game, I'm playing pretty sloppy because there's a little time on the clock. We're just both moving very fast, just trying to get things going. And my deck is now, I think, like in 10 or 11 outs to win the game out of 13 cards. Like, I need a boss, I need a research, I need an energy. Like, I need anything basically to win the game, because of how the board is set up. Like, I think an energy gets me to Cress, an energy gets me to Screamtail, like an energy gets me to anything to literally win this game. Because I'm at one prize card, and I draw for 2 turns in a row, I'm pretty sure, and I do not hit what I need. And Brian basically just clocks me, and it's just super, super annoying because I think a Gardevoir was also stuck in the active with Flutter, which also made it like really hard for me to play the game. And I think that was on me. Like, I think I made a mistake for that board state to even happen, and I had no Curlius in play, but I had a Greninja. So if I get the energy, I think I had one attachment to Gardevoir, so if I get one more energy attachment, I can retreat and just win the game. Also like Drifloon or Crest or something, or I get Boss's Orders, or Research, or the Luminion that's in my deck, or the Ultra Balls that are in my deck, or the Arven for the Vessel that's in my deck. Like, I had so many outs, and I think I laid it out afterwards and showed Brian, and I was like pretty upset, but I was also happy for him for his finish. But he did bubble out and did get 66th, which is unfortunate, and I also looked at the tiebreakers after, and I probably would have been in the exact same position, which is not good. So, that all being said, NAIC, 128th on the nose. Can't really complain about the performance. I think I played pretty well. I think I did kind of insane for myself. I hit some pretty insane players throughout the tournament, but that's what an IC is. All eyes are on Worlds next. I'm really excited for Worlds. Should be a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really don't have much else to say. I really like the list. I really like my arts. Kind of sexy, huh? But love you guys all for watching, and yeah, like and subscribe. We'll have some fun content coming out this week.